Hello Electroheads! Or should I say, ni hao Electroheads. Today we're talking China, specifically Chinese car makers, because as you may have noticed, they're undergoing something of a growth spurt recently. I mean, back in the 1980s, China's most popular passenger vehicle had hooves. And even as recently as the mid-2000s, the very best China-made cars were little more than copycat versions of European models, like the Sangguan Noble, which just happens to bear a resemblance to the Smart 4.2, and the Geely Merry 300, which, I mean, that is literally just a Mercedes C-Class. But today, things are very different. In less than half a century, the Chinese car industry has gone from being non-existent to the biggest in the world. Last year, Japan and the USA, the world's second and third biggest auto industries, made 15 and 8 million cars respectively, 23 combined. Maths. China built 25 million cars all by itself. And these aren't knockoff copycat cars anymore. I mean, okay, there is still a little bit of that going on. But right now, the best China-made cars are more than good enough to stand toe-to-toe with their Western counterparts. Now, until recently, China's enormous car industry was relatively self-contained. Western cars are very expensive to import due to import tax, so most Chinese-made cars stayed in China. But in recent years, there have been some telltale signs that China's car makers are ready to branch out into the West. Now, initially, this took the shape of Chinese car brands buying up European iconic car brands and pumping money into them, as Geely did with the likes of Volvo, Polestar and Lotus to great effect. And then we saw Chinese cars being rebadged as European cars and sold in Europe, like the MG5, which is actually a Chinese-designed and Chinese-built Roway i5 wearing a Wayne Rooney shirt. The next step will be for Chinese car makers to send its products overseas unapologetically badged as Chinese models. And that has already begun, with a boatload of Xpeng G3s arriving in Norway last year. This is happening, people. It's happening right now, and it's very worrying news for the Western car makers, but potentially very good news for those of us who love electric cars. Because China's car makers don't seem to share their Western counterparts' reluctance for making the affordable long-range EVs that we so desperately need right now. So given all of that, I thought today I would give you an idiot's guide to the most important Chinese car makers, specifically the ones who are really looking like they might break into the Western markets in the near future. Who are the big players? What are they about? When can I buy one? These are the questions we'll answer today. But before we do that, please do make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below to let me know which Chinese car maker you are most excited to see arriving on your shores. Also, the research for this video was an absolute bitch, so if anything's inaccurate, just let me know down below. Sorry about that. Tried my best. Let's do it. Xpeng. And we begin with the aforementioned Xpeng, or Xpeng to his mates. Founded in 2014 and financially backed by smartphone and crappy e-scooter brand... There's a dog. There's a dog in the office. Come on, give her a cameo. Oh, you are a dog. You are a dog. You are a dog. Okay, fine. Go away. Anyway, founded in 2014 and backed by smartphone and slightly dodgy e-scooter makers Xiaomi, this EV-only brand made a splash last year when it delivered a boatload of its G3 SUVs to Norway, becoming the first Chinese brand to deliver a batch of its cars to Europe. I mean, I suppose technically the first Chinese brand to deliver a batch of its cars to Europe was Geely, because they own Polestar, but shut up. Now, don't be put off by the G3's weird pointy bird face. Despite being Xpeng's very first model, this little crossover is reported to have impressive build quality, a slick user interface, and Tesla-rivaling self-driving tech. And all this can be yours for a mere 358 Norwegian kroner, which is like 30 grand. For context, to buy an entry-level Tesla Model 3 in Norway will set you back just under 400,000 kroner, which is the equivalent of about 34,500 pounds. So the G3 is a proper bargain. But the car I'm really interested in is the Xpeng P7. It's priced like a Model 3, but it's closer to a Model S in terms of size, cabin space, and range. The top-line model offering an Elon-troubling 439 miles. I personally happen to think it's a much more interesting looking car than any Tesla too, and reports suggest that it has the Americans beaten for build quality too. Although in fairness, the build quality of the Model 3 has improved dramatically recently, since, you know, they started building them in China. How soon till we see this car on our shores? Well, there's no clear date in place, but given that the P7 has been on sale in China for almost a year now, we could be seeing it arrive in Europe before the end of this year. Neo. Now, if you've heard of Neo, chances are it's either through Formula E, which it's been a part of since the inaugural season, actually winning the inaugural season, or through this mad contraption. This is the EP9. It has a megawatt, that's 1,360 brake horsepower, of power, and a Nürburgring lap record under its belt. And this car turned Neo into probably China's most famous car maker pretty much overnight. Neo's road cars, meanwhile, are a far cry from the cheap and cheerful type of stuff that we've become used to from Chinese car makers. These are seriously premium products with striking interior designs, smooth, powerful motors, and interiors decked out in all sorts of, posh materials and stuff. On top of all of that, Neo's road cars have a very special party trick. And I'm not talking about this little weird sentient robot assistant, which, based on the advert I watched, kind of a pervert. I'm talking battery swaps. That's right, pop into your local Neo power swap station and you can have your empty battery replaced with a full one in 3 to 5 minutes. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, for one, 3 to 5 minutes is about how long it takes to fill a car up with petrol and faster than any existing charger. But actually, I think the financial implications are even more exciting. Neo sells its cars without the battery in China, instead offering you a subscription to the battery swapping service. And this allows Neo to sell its cars for around $10,000 cheaper than it otherwise would. And for owners, it removes any fear of battery degradation or the anxiety of having to purchase a replacement battery down the line and deal with that big nasty cost. This is a brilliant idea. So when are they coming? Well, funny you ask, because at the time of recording this, just a few hours ago, Neo announced that it'll be bringing its ES8 model to Norway in September of this year, and get this, they'll be building 4 battery swapping stations in Oslo. I told you, it's happening now. Geely. Now, if you've heard of any of the brands on this list, chances are it's this one. While Neo and Xpeng are both relatively new electric-only brands, Geely is an OG of the Chinese car-making industry. This is a big company, and it has been splashing its cash all around Europe for a few years now, purchasing majority stakes in Volvo Polestar and Lotus, as well as smaller companies like the London Electric Vehicle Company, which make black cabs, and Smart Car. And with Geely's backing, pretty much all of these companies have undergone significant rejuvenations, and for the most part, electric vehicles have been absolutely central to that. The incoming Lotus Evija represents the absolute cutting edge of what is possible right now with electric power, and Polestar's first electric car, the 2, is one of the most complete and definitely one of the coolest EVs on the road. I wouldn't necessarily call these Chinese cars, but they would not be possible without Chinese funding. And now, having tested the waters with its subsidiaries, Geely is ready to bring an electric car of its own to the global market. Unveiled at last month's Shanghai Motor Show, this is the Zeekr 001, and it is sick. Zeekr is a new brand intended to be Geely's own premium EV division, and the 001, rather confusingly, was last seen as a concept car called the Lynk & Co. Zero. Lynk & Co. is another Chinese-Swedish spin-off brand. Honestly, the research for this video, I need a nap. The point is that this Zeekr is the real deal. It's a great-looking, sporty estate car. You know Jacko loves one of those. It's got up to 435 miles of range, 535 brake horsepower, and the sickest light bar in the game. And even more excitingly, the Zeekr debuts Geely's new modular EV architecture. It's called the SEA platform, and its defining feature is its modularity. It can be used for anything from A segment to E segment cars, can be equipped with 1, 2, or 3 motors, can accommodate front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, or all-wheel drive, and is compatible with over-the-air updates. This is the platform that will underpin the next generation of electric Volvos, Lotuses, and Polestars. Big deal. Deliveries of the Zeekr will begin in China in October of this year and in the rest of the world in early 2022. And I can honestly say this is one of the new cars I am most excited to get my hands on. SAIC. Okay, last one. Let's talk about SAIC, aka SAIC, aka the Shanghai Automotive Industry Corporation. This is another of China's legacy car makers, and it's a bloody big one at that. The company essentially began life as the Chinese arm of Volkswagen, a relationship which is still strong to this day. It also has a long-standing relationship with General Motors. It is China's largest automaker and, coincidentally, also happens to be 100% state-owned. The point is, we need to be paying serious attention to SAIC's latest passion project, MG. Actually, fun story quickly about how SAIC came into possession of MG. Back in 2007, there was a bidding war between SAIC and another Chinese company called Nanjing for the right to the MG name. Nanjing actually won that bidding war, so SAIC accepted defeat gracefully and bought Nanjing, thus gaining the rights to MG. Now, SAIC has been building products under the MG name for about a decade now, and for most of that time, the products have been, well, unremarkable. But everything changed about 2 years ago when MG embraced electric and established itself as the new king of the affordable electric car. The MG5 is not an exciting car, it's not a charming car, but it is a car. And if you judge it purely based on the amount of equipment, range, and space that you get for the money, there is no electric car anywhere near it right now. It's in a category of one for value. Now, if SAIC were just to continue building really great value for money long-range electric vehicles, that would be more than enough for me. But based on some of their recent concept cars, they have slightly loftier ambitions for the future. Just check out this MG Cyberster concept that was previewed at Shanghai this year. Good lord! It's the second sporty two-door electric coupe concept that MG has previewed, the first being last year's E-Motion. Oh, these names are so bad. These concepts suggest a much more exciting design language going forward for the MG brand, and fingers crossed this sporty two-door coupe goes into production soon, because I have been craving a two-door electric sports car for so long now. If you want to know more about this new and improved SAIC-funded MG, be sure to check this video out right here. And there we have it. I'm going to leave it with those four for today. We could easily go into Great Wall, Hongqi, Hengqi, Hongguang, and Aura, but the ones we discussed are by far the ones most likely to actually be able to sell you a car in Europe or the USA in the next 12 months or so. Thank you very much for watching. Please do make sure to comment down below. Let me know, what do you make of the incoming barrage of new Chinese electric cars? Which model are you most excited for? Which car brand should I have mentioned that I missed out this video? Let me know down below. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.